Test. Or am I here? I'm not sure. Maybe I'm somewhere. Slid down. Well, it's cold in the shade, but you know I keep playing on. Hard to hear the tense jaw, but you know, half deaf, but I'm the blind bot on the road. Easy on the way, you know. This is my first warm-up. Spent all this time working on tuning in. All right, start reading. I'm going to do too long intro, maybe in the middle. All right, let's do it. So, beginning, Book 2, The Wanderings of Finn. All right, and then opens chapter 11, More Treachery. Okay. Get a drink. Learn to slow down and be chill, you know, to a point. Not dull. Ew. Coffee in the throat. Dull and boring. You know what I mean? I would rather listen to somebody that's just forthright in themselves than some, you know, I can put on an air too. And I do voices, and that's fun. I love doing that. That's enjoyable. All right. The troop of horsemen splashed along the muddy roadway, the riders wrapped closely in their cloaks against a sharp, chilling rain, pressed forward on mounts plastered chest high in the rich black ooze. They guided their horses upon the grass, verges at the worst spots to save them, the labor of slogging through deep mire. But the animals were clearly much worn already. I don't see why we can't be stopping for a bit, just to rest the horses, grumbled a thickest rider, bundled and hooded in a cloak so large that it made him seem a round bundle perched upon the saddle. The man at the head of the troop, himself hoodless, turned toward the speaker and revealed the face and leather patch of Gol Macmorna, chieftain of the Fian clans of Connaught. You know, Conan, he answered tersely. The High King has summoned us. The High King has summoned us, the other repeated in a mocking way. The High King has summoned us. He pulled back his hood in an angry gesture. His broad, sullen face was running with water, despite the covering. The few curling wisps of his remaining hair were plastered like wet rattles to his forehead. Brother, he went on argumentatively, I don't see why we've still got to be rushing out in any sort of weather, riding bone-weary and empty-bellied like hounds called to their master. Any time old Con whistles, he's not the power in Ireland anymore. Page 118. He's still our High King, Conan, Gold told him, more warningly this time. And we're still sworn to serve him and obey his will. No true fighting man of Fian's would deny that, not even Finn. So, no more of that treasonous talk from you. That doesn't explain why we can't have a bit of rest and maybe a little fire, Conan muttered, subdued but still complaining. You'll have your fire quick enough, brother, Gull said, pointing ahead. There's Tara! Ahead of them, a broad, rounded hill had come into view. Through the slanting screen of fine, hard rain, the outlines of structures upon it could be dimly seen. Conan's sullen expression at first lifted to one of hopeful spirits at the sight. But as they drew closer, the intervening screen of rain thinned to reveal the fortress more clearly. His look altered again, this time to a puzzled frown. The Don's looking just a bit shabby, don't you think? He asked. The reason for his comment was quite evident. The great fortress called Tara of the Kings, center of the political and spiritual soul of all Ireland, I have to say it like that, should have been its most imposing sight as well. Indeed, it was a grand place in size, a complex of many structures that sprawled across the top of the rounded hill and other smaller hills about it. But the look of it all now was threadbare and sorry, like the look of a once proud chieftain worn by the battering of a hard life. This impression grew even stronger as the riders mounted the slope of the main hill toward the palisade, which circled its crest. It could be seen now that the thick logs of the high defensive wall were rotting at their bases, some already sagging from their positions in a badly eroded earthen rampart. Gall's troop rattled over a shaking bridge that spanned the fosse and rode through a gate where a miserable-seeming pair of sodden guards huddled by a pitiful, smoking fire in a rusty iron brazier. They dismounted by a disintegrated stable building where a bent-backed ancient took their horses. Wow. Stay here and see that they are properly looked to, Gull ordered. Second. Oh, I can hear the birds. Cool. One of his warriors, casting a dubious eye around at the decrepit surroundings and the wheezing old man, Then he led the rest of his company across the rain-soaked yard toward the immense circular structure in its center. Even the teach mi curata, or let's see, mi quarta. I don't know how to say it. It almost looks like Spanish. It's not. Mi quarta. I don't know. Just trying to say it. Has a neglected air, so that's the name of the place. Micuarta. All right. Gull commented, sidestepping a wide pool. The great hall of Tara certainly did show signs of deterioration. The daub was crumbling from its walls, and the thatched roof was worn thin from weathering and sagging forlornly under the beating rain. Neglected air, with question, said Conan, with a scornful laugh, hopping over a rivulet that had carved a deep channel across the soggy ground. That's the rot of it you smell. The whole bloody place is ready to topple about us. It reached the hall's main doors. Gull thumped upon the panels with a fist, causing them to rattle loosely upon their hinges. Wow, Gull's strong. After a lengthy interval, a shuffling was heard within. It grew louder until at last there was the clanking of a latch undone, and the door creaked shrilly open. A face was thrust out and a long, scrawny neck. It was wrinkled and wreathed by an unruly tangle of white hair and beard. It peered at the men with clouded, red-rimmed eyes, and then spoke in a voice that rasped as rustily as the door hinges. And who are you dripping vagabonds to be coming to the door of Tara's hall to bother us? I am Gol MacMorna, the chieftain announced, of the clan of Morna. I have come to see the High King. Who's that, you say? The man asked, cocking his head and directing an ear at the warrior. Gol what, MacMorna? Or wait. Gol what? MacMorna, Gol said again, a little testily. Of the Fionn of Connaught. I've come to see the High King. I don't care who you are, the man cawed sharply. The king's resting now. You can't be disturbing him. Go away. He started to push the door too. The hand of Gull shot out, gripping it, holding it open. Startled, the old man looked up as the one-eyed chieftain leaned forward, bringing his face close. Gull's expression was hard now, and his voice was uncompromising. We have come a great way in a cold rain to see the High King. At his own request, steward, he rapped out. You will let us in, and you will tell him we are here now. The old man, clearly frightened, released the door and scuttled off into the shadows within. Gull shoved both portals fully open and gestured to his warriors to follow him. They stepped through into the interior of the hall. The vast, desolate space that opened before them was like the gloomy depths of a dank cavern. A few guttering candles, feebly fluttering, lit the dingy walls and the scores of the empty, dust-cloaked tables. The air was thick with humidity and the odor of mildew. Water dripped from uncountable places in the battered thatch, making stagnant pools on the floor and the plank tabletops. sizzling and spitting as it fell upon the few glowing coals in the central fire pit. Get a drink. The company of warriors moved forward into the room and stopped, looking round them with expressions of open dismay at what they saw. Then, from within deep the shadows at the back of the room, there came a rustling, drawing the attention of everyone to it. Two figures emerged into the faint light. One was the wild-haired old steward, fixing an indignant glare upon the intruders. Like that old guy from Harry Potter or something. He's like, he's got the cat. Hold on. Don't get lost laughing. Okay, hold on. All right, we'll start there. Two figures emerged into the faint light. One was the wild-haired old steward, fixing an indignant glare upon the intruders. The other was a man so stooped and wasted that he caused Gold to exchange a glance with his brother, the brow of his good eye arching in what was for the stolid chieftain a show of great astonishment. Hold on. Okay. For Khan, winner of 100 battles, High King of all Ireland, had become a shockingly decrepit being. Hanging loosely about him, his arms and legs withered sticks and with knobby joints. His lean, long-featured head was gaunt, with cheeks hollow and eyes sunk deep within their sockets, giving him a ghastly, cadaverous look. He advanced across the floor, slowly, his movements very stiff. When he reached the low platform, which elevated the table of state, the old steward had to help him climb with considerable difficulty onto it. He tottered to an elaborately carved armchair at the center of the table and lowered himself creakingly into it. He fixed his eyes, glowing points of ice blue light within the shadowed sockets upon the Fionn chief. "So, MacMorna," he said in a hollow voice, "you will still obey me. I had wondered if you would abandon me as those parasites who were my court have done." "You are my king," Goals told him flatly. "I am sworn to you to the laws of Ireland for so long as you—" He paused, clearly realizing the unpleasant connotation of the next word, "live." Con finished. His mouth stretched upward in a death's head grin, and he chuckled, a dry sound like the rustling of fall leaves. "Well, that may be long enough. Why did you call me here, my king?" Gol asked. Is there some danger?" Smiling mouth drew into a thin line. The voice grew chill. "Yes, a great danger and a great opportunity, my old friend. I have heard that Finn Macumal has abandoned the Fianna to quest after some woman." "I," Gold began. He hesitated as if considering, then went on in a somewhat reluctant tone. "I have heard something of it, my High King." "So did you know?" Khan said accusingly. "And you did not tell me?" I saw no need, Gold began in a defensive tone. Khan interrupted curtly. No need to tell your king that the Fianna, the defenders of Ireland, the keepers of its laws, have no leader. The trouble was Finn's and for Finn to deal with, Gold said firmly. I have no right to interfere. We are taking about more than Finn here. Or wait, we are talking about more than Finn here, Khan said with great power. It is the captaincy of the Fianna that concerns me. Finn will surely return, Gold told him. It's said that he is mad, Khan shot back. The tale is that the woman had bewitched him, had stolen his will to lead you, and now he wanders, obsessed with finding her broken and spiritless. There was a note of cruel glee in his voice, and his eyes glittered with satisfaction. Hold on. Drink. I'll not believe any of that, the chieftain countered. I know the strength of Finn. I know his honor. Do you? Khan said derisively. Still, you cannot deny that he has chosen to break his oath, disregard his duty, and abandon his fighting men for some selfish quest. That is treason. Ooh. It means that someone else must take control. Oh, here we go. See, that guy's kingdom is ruined. What does he want? It's to take Finn's place. Use goal. You must assume the Fionn leadership again. No, Goal snapped. I will not. But you must, Khan insisted. His tone ever more heated, his eyes glowing with an ever more angry light. He has given me the chance I've sought, and he's given it to you as well. Think of it, my friend. A chance to assume the captaincy, the captaincy again. I don't want it, Goal said, sweeping out his hand in a gesture of vehement denial. You took it wrongly from his father once before, and I was fool enough to help you. I'll not help you again. The old king's face grimaced in sudden fury. He leaned forward, his wasted body rigid, shaking with tension. His bony hands gripped the arms of his thrones like claws upon their prey. So you remember Underworld, right? When the lead female character goes to the head vampire and he's in there and they're feeding blood to him, right? And he's all rigid like that. That's what it reminds me of. Snaps. He deserves this, he snarled at Gull. Look what he has done to me since his victory on the White Strand. He is the most feared warrior, the greatest leader in the world. He has given your Fianna all the esteem, all the power and wealth that should be mine. Do you hear that? Mine! I'm abandoned by the lords, by the servants, even by my own son who dares to call me weak. I am left here in this moldering ruin alone. He lifted a hand and shook a clenched fist in triumph. But now I will have my power back. Now I will have my respect again. Finn will be gone. And you, he pointed at Talon and grinned, my loyal and faithful Gol MacMorna will return it all to me. It's only the venom in you that's keeping you alive, my king, Gol told him. It hisses in your words like a serpent's tongue, and if it's vengeance you're seeking, I'll do nothing for you. I'm loyal, yes, but only to the laws of Ireland and to the good for her that you should represent. I see, the old man said bitterly, sinking back in his chair. He contemplated his defiant chieftain for a time, and then a look of shrewdness came into the glinting eyes. Well then, if that's your feeling, he said in more reasoning tones, then you must still act for me and to Ireland's good. The Fianna cannot be left leaderless. Why, Finn may not even be alive. Why, Finn may not even be alive. He left in the fall and has been seen by no one since. Now it is spring, and the winter was harder than any I've ever known. This appeared to perplex Gull. He considered exchanging a look with Conan, who only shrugged in a non-committal way. Finally, Gull responded. Very well, he agreed reluctantly. I will go to Almhuin and see what the situation is. Should there come a need, I'll be forced to take the leadership of the Fians, but otherwise I'll only wait and watch. I'll not assume the captaincy of the Fianna unless I know that Finn was either has truly abandoned them, or is dead. Do you understand? I do, the king told him, skull-like face beaming with a victorious light. It is enough, for I know that he is finished, and I am certain he is not, Gull answered. He nodded curtly, turned, and led his men back out of the great hall at a brisk stride. But as they left it, its vast silence was filled with a peculiar sound. It came from Khan. His head was back, his mouth open in a shrill staccato laugh of triumph that echoed eerily in the empty room. It also reminds me of Lord of the Rings, when Wormtongue is taken over the king, right? So that guy could be controlled by the Dark Druid. I don't know. Never read this book. Finn and Cowlight followed the two dogs across a broad meadow. A bright sun shone down from a clear sky, warming them. The day was invigorating, fresh, fragrant, with the blossoming of a new growth, brilliant with the jewel-like clarity of spring. But the little group was itself far from fresh. The spring sun shone on forms decidedly the worse for the brutal honing of a hard winter's traveling. All were much gaunter now. Their muscular forms were lean and sinewy, though without making them seem less strong or less dangerous, but somehow more so. Both hounds and men were now much like half-starved, prowling wolves. True. The clothes of Finn and Cowlight were badly worn, their cloaks nearly in shreds, their tunics stained and worn. The hair of the two was long, uncombed, and gone wild. Finn's fair, fine stream of hair was now a stringy tangle caught up in a knot beside his neck. Cowlight's thick hair was carelessly twisted into a thick plait, from which wiry strands had escaped to form a bush about it. So, too, were the coats of the dogs, long, ungroomed, the thick, curling fur matted close to the hide by dirt to make them seem all the more gaunt. And what was the most striking abandonment of the Fionn warriors' normally fastidious look, both men were now bearded. Cowlight's thick beard and flamboyantly jutting mustaches of a startling red-brown gave him a raucous look. Finn's finer beard and drooping mustache, more silver than his hair, added to an air of melancholy that seemed to hang upon him. The beards of both concealed their youth, their looks, and their identities, making them seem even more like savage and very desperate men. And still, the quest continued. Take a drink. Oh, here we go. And still, the quest continued. As through the winter and the fall before that, they pressed on at the same steady, determined gait, eyes searching about them as if to spot some quarry. They moved on across the meadow, mounting a great soft swell of it through. I'm trying to go faster. Of it through grass that switched knee-high about the men and stroked the bellies of the hounds. At the top of the rise, they finally paused. From here, they had a view of more meadows that undulated away in the sensuous waves, richly furred with the intense green of the spring growth. Beyond them began a more hilly land covered with trees whose lace of branches just started to show the coloring of budding leaves. Was like a fringe to the green cloak of meadows folded against the base of the sky. I can always tell when the coffee kicks in. It is. Oh my God. All right. You refill the drinky. Listen to that. I swear I'm not doing anything else. I swear. No, you can see the steam. We're in the woodland. Don't worry about it. Just take care of it. Okay. Farther yet, just at the curving rim of the horizon to the west, the color changed more abruptly, rolling hills giving way to the steeper rises of a ridge of mountains. They formed a line that looked like a resting beast, its back running from a tail in the north to the south, where it rose to create a large rounded head. The mountains looked stark and rocky, their sides a grayish purple that grew darker as they rose to a sharp line against the light blue sky. The men stood gazing across the wide lands to this line of mountains. The attention of both focusing on the highest brooding peak, as if drawn to it. What is that mountain? Finn asked. In all my travelings in Ireland, I have not seen that before, Cowlight said, sounding surprised himself that he did not know. He looked at Finn. Where? Very far, my friend, from the places we know and from our people. Finn didn't seem to hear, his own eyes still fixed on the peak. Strange, he said musingly, but it seems to pull at me, since it's a place we've not seen before. I say that we go toward it. If we turn south, we'll find a fine, Brudheen, not 2 days' walk from here, Cowlight urged in a hopeful way. A bit of hot food, a drink, and a night's rest. There might do a great healing good for our spirits. Finn turned and gazed upon his friend. The set look of determination seemed to have etched permanent lines about the eyes now. The voice spoke its words, in a kind of toneless incantation, as if they'd been repeated many times before. "The summer will be upon us soon," Cowlight said. "The summer. And that means it's almost a year gone since she was taken. A year in that monster's hands. A year," Cowlight repeated, sighing wearily. Can't breathe. "And well enough, I know. And each day more that passes, I see the pain of it wearing harder on you, stabbing deeper into you. That's why I'm asking you to rest just for a bit. That mountain won't be going anywhere." In reply, Finn only shook his head morosely, turned his gaze back on the way ahead, and plodded on. Cowlight looked after him, shook his own head sadly, gave another sigh that seemed to well up from his depths, and looked down at the two hounds. "Well, lads, I tried. Let's be on then, and goodbye, bed and nail." Patted his hollow stomach regretfully, then smiled and shrugged. "Ah, never mind. I was needing a bit more slimming anyway." The three started after the fair-haired warrior, and the tiny company set its course like an arrow shot toward the purple-gray peak, a peak that seemed both foreboding and beckoning at once. They couldn't know that inside it lay their goal, a vast chamber hewn from the living rock, or that within the chamber a strident cry was now loudly echoing. So next page will be The Seer's Plan, chapter 12. Alrighty. Take a break and then come back and do chapter 12 later. Alrighty. Awesome. So I retuned both, and I have accepted this about myself. I will not be the perfect expression of what someone else wants. In order to sell myself to them. However, if I, being who I am, attracts others like me, that's good. Come upon a fire, they say, easy on the way. Oh, you know, it's a hard way in a rough land. Looking for love, you know. Well, the dark druid took her to the hidden place. He's on the way, in the valley low, to the mountain high, looking up at the peak of the mountain. Nothing's gonna stop this man from finding love. No. You go further than any man's ever gone. No. I think that's what this story's all about for me. Not too late, not too late, not too late. Stay. Well, I'll lived through 2 divorces, not my own, but in my own family. I'd never been married and just said, hey, pass on the 10 kids and all that, you know. I live in Utah, where you going? Hey. Walk my way in desert land. As a bird circle overhead, you know. Easy on the breeze as it goes, say hey. For the power of the power, my people grow. Sides circle round above us as we pray. The music is high energy. Grandmother, grandfather on the way. Tree play Manuel. It's a long way through the valley to the mountain night. Never seen that mountain before. He's gonna go there for his wife and child, deep within the clutches of the dark Druid's lair. Only the true hero will find Sometimes I'm in the valley alone, looking for her, but I don't know where she goes. I know you're out there somewhere. I know you're out there. I know you're out there. That's all I could think of. Back to this. They said, intuition goes, Robert, we'll get the Patriot in there. Maybe I feel just like Fender's, you know. Fend my cool on the way. Fend my cool mall, calm forth. Your love has been trapped by the dark Druid in his lair. What will you do? You will rise. You will go through the valley to the mountain peak. Heart's pain. Grandmother, grandfather, no. Let her rise and love. It's all a battle on the way, that's what he said. Be a hero of love. if I drop down the mountain, if I fall down from the peak, I did my best, but he said, even if I don't do it in this lifetime, I come back and folk song memory. I won't say it. Even if I'm walking through the wasteland alone, I'll still be looking for her deep down. Take her safely, safely, safely to my sacred ground. Family surrounds it. Easy on the wave, easy on the wave, easy on the wave, easy on the wave. Oh, oh, say. Weary as I am, keep on going on. Keep going on. Hot flame burning in my soul. Hot flame and world. Grandmother, grandfather. Tree flaming well, tree flaming well, tree flaming well. Tree flaming well. Harsh on the breeze, I can feel it shaking in the vocal cords. They're going. See the root down, sit. Shaking like a leaf in the pouring rain. Woodland light, woodland grandfather, I know, I know, I know. Grandmother by the well say, hold the flame, on the flame tree, and well, you know, flame tree and world, ancient as the days I owe, still circle and say I owe. I is grandfather, grandmother is the well that is the wall. Grandmother, oh, groggy as I am, better drink down from the wisdom well. I know. tell me which way. Well, they told me grandmother said you better wait on when it's time. She just walk right up and said it was all for love anyway. You come with me forevermore. I owe you were worth it all the way. All the suffering through the valley to the mountain peak, I know. I owe heart's flame to see, heart's flame to see, heart's flame.